Let's do this damn thing. Here we go. Hello and welcome to another Woodshop podcast with Mike Coffey of Coffey Custom Builds, Daniel Dunlap of Daniel Dunlap Woodworks, and Peter Kapar of Petrie's Workshop. You can find us all as well as the podcast on Instagram and YouTube.
Welcome to episode 86 of another Woodshop podcast featuring Jimmy Diresta, who thought of no better way to celebrate 10 years on YouTube than to spend it with these three bozos. What's going on? Thanks for joining us, man.
In the pre-show, you guys asked me how long I've been on, and I went and looked at my first video, and it happens to be exactly 10 years ago today, which is
so crazy.
Today.
We planned that. That was
amazing.
planned.
We definitely went onto your YouTube channel, looked at what date it was, and proposed it to you to come on the show.
I had no idea. I was like, it's somewhere around now, but I thought it was 2012 when I started. So I said right away, I think I'm at 9 years. I didn't know this was at 12.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
Congrats.
And it's working out pretty good for you over there, from what I understand.
You know, God's honest truth, I still feel like I'm just getting started. I really do.
Boy.
Because this business is like the Wild West still, what we're all doing. Like any one of us could be the next big breakout star. It's just, you just never know. Like there's some of us that have tremendous amount of subscribers and there's no telling why. And there's some of us that have lots and lots of views, but less subscribers, and there's no telling why. It's just such a wacky, weird business. And, some of us make a ton of money with little subscribers and little views. Some of us make no money with lots and lots of subscribers and lots and lots.
Some of us make no money with no subscribers. It's the weirdest thing.
So it's just such a wacky business. But like the one thing that seems to ring through the entire business itself is just people enjoying themselves, doing what they really want to do, whether they're rich, poor, or just happy, just passing time.
Reach.
Gotta enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we got Jimmy on the show. He's been telling us about, the basics of YouTube, which no one seems to understand. But
algorithm.
Try to make the best of it. So, real quick, I did want to say before we get going, big thanks to our patrons for sponsoring the show. You guys are amazing. We couldn't do the show without you. So big thanks to you guys for that. We're going to kind of truncate some of the things this week just because we have Jimmy on the show, and that's not something we get to do ever.
And we got like 50 questions.
Yeah. So we're going to quickly jump into what we've been going on this week. I'm going to throw it to Jimmy first, but first we got to hear our intro music for that segment of What's on My Bench. And that's this right here.
What's on my bench?
Thank you, Dan. Your voice is beautiful.
That says that what's on my bench, by the way. It just sounds like something else.
Who made that opening song? Is that something you found like on some?
That's
Jewel
Dan.
Oh no, the opening song.
It's a Jewel.
No.
That's
the opening song.
That's an Epidemic song. Yeah. That's a song from Epidemic that I dubbed our intro over.
Oh, I like that.
Licensing.
Spanish salsa? Is that what it's called?
Spanish fly.
And it's Spanish fly. Yeah. Spanish salsa.
I dig that beat.
Yeah, it's good.
It was good. Well, anyway, Jimmy, what have you been up to this week?
I don't know if you saw my Instagram today. It's been a busy week just because I was in Vegas last week for the National Hardware Show. So I came back and just trying to get a groove. I finished my Carolina Carolina boots tailgate video.
That came out really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to, that's an old project. And you know what I've been getting a lot of requests of lately is redoing old projects. A lot of people are like, what if you're going to do something now? Like would I not necessarily do it most simply with say laser cutters or CNCs, but if you were to do it now, what changes would you make? And I spent all this time, the very first time I did a tailgate, stamping metal, trying to figure out how to stamp metal. And then I thought I could actually stamp steel in that first video and then weld it in so you could see the logo from the inside of the tailgate and the outside. So it would look like just like a Chevy logo would look in those old cars. Mm-hmm. And, I did a horrible job in that first video. I put it out anyway. There's a question coming up about failures. And that's one of the videos I posted where I kind of had a failure. And I said, I'll figure this out in time. And then ultimately I ended up like taking that tailgate apart and burying that stuff in resin, burying those letters in resin. And I did that just a couple summers ago. After all this time, it was almost 9 years ago I did that video. Anyway, so when I had to approach this Carolina shoe video from scratch, I was like, how would I do it now with the Total Boat technology, which is just ever present, a lot more user friendly. Back 6 or 7 years ago, resin was like for chemists, and the occasional person who was, brave enough to figure it out. And now we're all using total boat resin. And so I said, let me show how you could just cut some letters and, some relatively thin plastic, pour a little bit of resin to fuse the plastic to the metal. And then you end up looking like stamped metal. And then,
Yeah, that was really cool how you did
Super
that.
cool.
Thank you.
That looked like 1/4 inch acrylic you were using?
Yeah, I think it was only 1/8 inch thick acrylic.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just 1/8 inch thick acrylic. And just the resin was just enough to kind of keep it kissed to the surface of the metal, and create that
Nice.
little well. So it creates that stamped metal look.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So
Very
I did that
innovative.
and, just organizing my machine shop with the new tool bench that we moved in there today. Then I got stuck in the mud. and-
That's a monster.
Another
Tool
story.
bench.
Did you see that toolbox I made with all the,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I
That
made that. It's like an
that butcher
island.
block countertop you put on top of it.
Yeah. Butcher block island top. Yeah. I just need storage. I have so many Starrett tools and, all this stuff for the South Bend lathe and the Bridgeport mill. I just need it all laid out. And I'm horrible when it comes to organizing. I'm
Did you
trying my
get
best.
that? I was listening to your podcast and you were talking about that big bandsaw you're getting. Those 2 bandsaws, the 48 inch. Did you get those yet?
No, they're right now. They're at Keith Rucker's place down in Georgia, and he's
Yeah.
restoring one of them. The second one doesn't have wheels and a couple of other primary elements like shafts and stuff like that. So
Right.
he's one of the caps is missing for one of the shafts, and so he's gonna possibly use bandsaw 1 to mock up the parts of bandsaw 2. And I told him to keep it. Obviously, I want to pay him back as best I can. And he said, no. Let's pick. We'll restore it. He goes, I don't have room for it, frankly. He goes, I don't want it here. He goes, we'll restore it and we'll find a new home for it. So I'll get bandsaw 1. Bandsaw 2 will go to some lucky person in the community.
A museum.
That's cool.
Maybe.
Oh wow, in the community, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be
no,
awesome.
that's what me and Keith were talking about. We'll figure out where it could live.
That's
maybe
super
somebody
cool.
would want it, besides me.
Awesome.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So dope.
Well, you got anything else?
No, that's it. Just basically, just my to-do list is never ending.
Never ending.
Yeah. Well, Pete, what you got going on this week?
I had a pretty straightforward week. I got a couple of jobs. I got a sign that I got to make for a customer for a couple climbing friends from my old rock climbing gym, but they have a physical therapy business and another business. So that I'm going to be making outdoor signs for them. I am making a ash tabletop and hitting it with that Rubio chocolate that you guys recommended. Thank you for that. So that's going to be probably tomorrow or Saturday. I'm going to finish it.
Smells good,
And
doesn't it?
I
The
don't know,
Rubio.
I haven't mixed it yet, so I'm excited. It smells
Am I
that
the
good.
Jimmy, have you used Rubio? It smells
have
like
not.
apple pie.
Does
Oh, I
it?
was hoping you
It
would.
does. It smells like apple pie. It's good.
Oh, I'm
I
really
have
excited
not.
now.
I need more confirmation that it smells like apple pie.
So
It
even the
smells-
chocolate one will smell like apple pie.
it does.
It's just the same. It's just dyed.
So I'm excited for that. And what else? And then I was a little sick the last 2 days. So I just kind of been MIA. Been nursing a little life hangover. Just sick, not feeling well, a little fever. So I'm back. I'm back, baby. I'm feeling great right now.
Welcome back, Petey.
Yeah, thank you. Dan, what's on your bench?
You guys are never gonna guess, but
If you say bow ties, I'm gonna lose it.
I've been cutting a lot of bow ties. A lot of bow ties, my man. I had a banger of a day last Sunday for bow tie production. Like, and this may not sound like much to some, but like I got 14 orders of bow ties
Whoa.
on Sunday alone.
Whoa.
Tens of dollars we're talking here.
Dan, you do realize like the holidays are coming up and you're probably gonna quadruple those sales. Are you
I
ready for
hope
that?
so. I need to put food on the table for the kids and stuff. So, so I got that. I got the material to make a floating shelf for a client. It's actually a pretty big floating shelf. It's going to be like 60 inches long and it's going to stick out 10 inches. So, and I got the Peruvian walnut desk base done, that Zorro base. That's all built. I got the drawers in it. All I need to do now is finish sand it and hit it with some lacquer and it'll be done. And I'm hoping to have that to my client on Sunday afternoon, whatever,
Nice.
God willing or whatever. And I think other than that, it's just been basic, shop maintenance, cleaning up after myself. That takes a lot of time. I really need to train one of my kids to just follow me around in the shop and pick up after me because I clearly
With a
can't do it.
13-gallon trash bag.
John, tool bench.
I can't do it. I'm terrible at it. Anyway, that's my week. Short, truncated. Mike, tell me about yours. Your week.
Still fighting with the power for the new shop. I'm looks like they're going to have an electrician out here tomorrow to run or to set the box for the disconnect for the new meter for the new shop and run the power to the shop. So hopefully they actually show up tomorrow. I just bought 5 acres. I just bought a big piece of property and I moved my shop. We're in the middle of, we sold our other house. I bought this place. I was in a smaller shop before and I just moved to this new place. It's got a shop on the property, but I'm running the power. So I'm putting a 200 amp service to the shop. So it'll have its own meter. And as soon as we get the other house sold, I'm blowing out the back wall and adding on like 1,300 more square feet. So it'll be about 2,400 or it'll be about 2,300 square feet when I'm done. So I need space in there because I'm trying to bring I'm bringing my cousin on.
Right.
So
are you rural or is it more like a suburb?
I'm rural now. I mean, where I was kind of foothills before, but all the lots around us are 5+ acres. So on our street, there's
East
3.
Durham, a little bit.
Yeah, it's like that. It's exactly like that. I'm pretty rural. So I'm outside of Sacramento about 45 minutes. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but
a little bit.
We got 5 acres out here. It used to be a Christmas tree farm. It's a super cool property, but I'm fighting with getting the power out here just because we had a big storm roll through here last weekend. Was it last weekend? Yeah, I guess it was last weekend. We got like 6.5 inches of rain in one day, which was a record for California. It was the most rain we've ever had in one shot out here. So it was a lot of stuff. So my electrician had to go to his other job sites. Totally understandable. It just sucks. I'm tired of waiting for power. So my big tools are just sitting there, but I've got a bunch of stuff coming up. I won't talk about this table this week because we're kind of truncating it, but I had the cedar table that I'm doing for my sales tax guy. And I had problems with that, but that thing's finally done. And I've got a table for a client. She's a returning customer. I'm building this boomerang shaped table, which is actually it's actually really cool. I really like this table a lot. It's just cool. It's different, big old boomerang shape. It's like,
Fun fact. Didn't you know that Australia's first export was a boomerang? It's also their first import.
Dan hits us with random fun facts sometimes.
That's a boomerang joke.
Yeah, what goes around comes around.
Oh, when you went and came back.
Oh God, I hate this show.
I'm here all week.
It's been 86 weeks of puns. Come on.
You and Graz are going to get along great.
It's gonna be fun.
So I was trying to wrap those two up because I've got to deliver both tomorrow. I've got to deliver the cedar top and I've got to deliver this maple boomerang top tomorrow because next week I'm starting on this big redwood table for this other customer. And then I've talked about Bidwell. They're another furniture shop that's about 2 hours north of here. I work with them a lot. I'm working with them on a 24-foot long table that's shaped like a triangle. And I've got about 1,000 board feet of white oak coming next week.
That's insane.
That I'm going to be making panels out of because we're going to be turning that into big, huge conference table for.
You're going to need an extra hand to lift that bad boy up. I'm predicting it right now.
So it's 12 panels, right? And they're all being put together in place with this giant massive base that Aaron's making at Bidwell. The base is huge. It's a bunch of panels. So I got that going, and then I've got some legs for them, and then I've got to get this spa stairs done for this lady. But it's just a busy week right now, and I just really need power really bad. So
soon it's coming.
That's pretty much my week.
But instead you got a moat. I mean,
yeah,
you got that nice moat. That's pretty cool.
I got an 80-foot trench dug between my house and my shop for us to run the direct burial Romex.
I totally know that feeling.
You should fill that sucker with alligators. Call it a day.
Dude, it's just, I have so much digging to do tomorrow. It's going to be ridiculous. But anyway, and then tomorrow's my son's birthday. He turns 5. And
he gets one every year.
Over Saturday. I know. We got a bunch of people coming over Saturday for his birthday, and it's just like, just never ends. It is what it is. But anyway, so that's my week.
Awesome.
Well, cool.
Let's
jump in. Yeah, let's jump into questions because we got a bunch of them. We put the call out because Jimmy's here.
And these are Jimmy only questions.
Yeah, we're not going to talk. No, we're going to follow up. Sure. But these are directed directly at Dorresta. So this first one is from Adam Barnett. Adam. Always appreciate you always calling in, buddy.
Don't embarrass the boys. Don't embarrass the boys. Don't ask stupid questions. All right, hit record. Hey guys, Adam here from Barnett Custom Woodworks. So Jimmy, I kind of have a two-parter question. The first part is, what is your favorite medium to work with? And branching off of that, I myself started a wood shop in my garage 2 years ago, but my day job for the last 20 years has been metalwork and fabrication, welding, stuff like that. I want to bring a little bit of that home and start fabricating my own table legs and this and that, but I've watched a ton of your videos and it seems like you just throw the welder on the shop table and weld away in the wood shop. What would you recommend as far as the hazards and the safety precautions to take when trying to incorporate that metalwork into the wood shop? Can't wait to hear your answers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Jimmy,
I think the
you
most
got?
important thing is to have a fire extinguisher nearby because, fire goes really quickly, and it's really important to be able to put it out if you lose control. It's you got to have a really keen sense of smell, constantly be looking, and when you leave, go home, lay in bed, and jump out of bed and run back and double check, because that's what happens to me every single time. It's really important that you can create an environment that's blocked by either creating a little short metal knee wall around your table. If you have like a pile of 2x4s leaning on the wall with lots of little tiny pieces all in between them, all those fancy strips of walnut and maple you don't want to throw out, make sure you have something in front of it, just like a sheet of metal or something, because any of those little sparks will set it off. You see, I'm wearing a Carhartt hoodie, and I'm always modifying them. This one, I got a pocket sewn onto it. I had a brand new Carhartt hoodie. Every season, I destroy about 3 of them, and I remember I bought a brand new hoodie, and I probably was a day old, and I said, "Let me put it all the way over here, so when I weld, I don't mess it up." And so I put it all the way, like maybe 10 feet away from my welding table. You guys remember, like in my early videos, I used to weld in this little brick corner. And
Yes.
I was welding into that little brick corner. And because it was just outside the wood shop, but there was enough garbage in there anyway, still the same type of hazard. And I smelled what smelled like cotton candy while I'm welding. That smells good. I wonder what that is. And I thought maybe one of my neighbors
Well,
was
I'm going
like
to keep welding.
making popcorn or something, because I always get all the smells from all the food in the neighborhood. And I'm welding, and then I'm like, damn, that smell is like so intense. It's got to be in this room. So I start looking around for something burning, and I pick up my brand new hoodie, and like the whole entire armpit is completely burned out. It's like it had been smoldering, and it's just like, for some reason, this like nice fresh cotton brand new Carhartt hoodie smelled like
I hear they
cotton
make
candy.
the sweetest clothes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And, so those little tiny specks can become a big fire. It's really important. And, another really, obviously keep a fire extinguisher around. First rule, don't do it. Second rule, block everything. Third rule, make sure you have a fire extinguisher under all circumstances. And then when you're done welding, hang out for at least 2 hours. Don't just weld and split. Weld and then tinker for
Jimmy.
2 hours. Yeah.
So just to be clear, you're not just welding willy-nilly and throwing caution to the wind. You're actually taking precautions to
I always
do that,
did,
because
yeah.
it sounded to me like Adam thought that maybe you weren't. You were just tossing the welder up on your workbench and going to town.
Yeah, no, and I do that. But I am making sure that if I'm grinding, for instance, when you grind and you always like end up burning a hole right in the bottom of your shirt because you're putting all the grinding, and then sometimes you grind sideways and you're just throwing sparks against like a propane tank. You don't even realize it. It's just really important. Like whenever I would grind in the old small shop, make sure that the grinding sparks are going into something that's not going to catch fire, like a sheet of metal, for instance, or on camera, you see it going off on camera. It's shooting away from the camera, but it's not going into a wood pile. It's certainly not.
Right.
It's just, I have this reputation of being a little loosey goosey and I am, but like I said, I would never weld and just leave. Taylor welded all the time, would weld in the New York City shop, and absolute standard practice. She'd weld and I'd say tinker or clean up for an hour, do something just to kill time, but don't just walk away, because we could burn the whole entire building down. We'd put 20 families out of a home, even if it was just a smoke condition, that would make everybody leave for the day.
Right
or
on.
two.
Good practice.
Yeah.
And then, so is
would you
that-
say it's worth? I
No.
was gonna say, would you say it's worth trying to like dedicate a separate building to that? I mean, if that's possible, it seems like it would be, right? I mean, just make a
Yeah.
separate outbuilding just for welding,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, like
you
I
want all
said,
that separate.
it didn't seem like it, but when I welded in my city shop, I was welding just outside of the wood shop in an area that was all brick. Again, it's still to the untrained person, it's still just as dangerous.
Right.
It probably was.
yeah.
But when I was welding and grinding, I'd close that little metal door that was just to my right shoulder. And then, the dust would primarily stay in that little cemented area, bricked area. And you just got to be super careful. Even though I was welding in those areas, I would still wait hours. When I had a lot of welding to do, I'd bring all my project to the front room. And the front room, which really wasn't my room, I would only just take it over if I needed to for a project. And I would just, because there was no wood in there at all. No wood, no dust. It was just all just brick room. And I would just weld in there.
Was that when you were in that basement shop?
Yeah, their place had about 4 different rooms. And I only paid for one of them. So, but nobody else was there. So the landlord
Right,
really didn't care if I did a small project for a couple of days in another room or not. But just as long as I didn't start setting up workbenches and stuff.
Or burn the place down, probably.
Yeah, burn it down.
Yeah, of course.
Well, obviously welders and like grinders, they're making sparks, but it's really important to keep fire extinguishers in your shops, especially with like these
either way.
automated tools people have nowadays. You see a lot more of them in people's shop. You got a CNC running or whatever, a laser going or some sort of plasma cutter or whatever. You don't pay attention to it for a few minutes. That thing gets hung up, or if for some reason your spindle stops traveling and you got a CNC spindle spinning in a piece of wood, it could start fire. And if you just don't want to get too complacent with those things in general. So fire extinguisher is definitely something I had to do the new shop. I've got 3 of them in the shop now. They're by the spots where I think it's the most high risk, but you got to have them in there. So
And when I'm doing something with
anyway.
the torch, for instance, I use like the propane torch to heat up metal or to make a silver solder joint. I always make sure, like before I pull that trigger, I just look around. I'm like, where's the nearest fire extinguisher? Because they get moved around, knocked over.
Yeah.
I have, and we scavenge them too. Like my neighbors throw them away sometimes when they move out of these spaces. So I'm always scavenging them. So I'm always like looking for one, make sure that the needle is in the green. And like, okay, let's do this. That type of fire will sneak up on you when you least expect it. Case in point, one time I had the propane torch on because I was like heating up like some kind of wax or something. And then somebody came in the room and pulled the trigger on compressed air. And that hit a fireball came out.
yeah.
Whoa.
Compressed air is
Yeah.
flammable. I didn't realize that. And neither
The
did
air
person.
is?
Yeah.
Holy
I guess
smoke.
it fuels the fire, right?
Well, not only that, there was like a huge ball of fire that came out of this can of compressed air.
Wild.
Oh, like an aerosol.
Oh,
can.
the actual
those are for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are.
I was thinking air compressor too. I think we all were.
Yeah, me too.
No,
Whoa.
like a dust.
The clean off your keyboard ones. Yeah.
So
Wow.
is metalworking your favorite medium? Because he was asking about like what's your favorite
I
medium to work
personally,
with?
I mean, it's when I carve something, it's super rewarding, which I haven't done in a while. I made that heart guitar over the summer, but when I carved something back in the early 2000s, that was always fun. It just takes so long, and I haven't really dug into it literally too much lately. But I like machining. I really enjoy making something on the lathe out of brass. The cannons that I've made have been some of the things I'm most proud of. Just figuring out ways of like machining and leaving, and then turning those little leftover spots into what looks like ribs. And metalwork for me has been a great discovery over the last several years because I didn't have the means to do it before I got on YouTube. I just did all woodwork. I did buy a machine lathe. I didn't really understand how to use it until I got onto YouTube and working with other machinists, until I really felt the full potential of my South Bend lathe. And then when I started,
Is that because of the extreme accuracy? Oh, sorry.
What
do you think it is?
No, just like being exposed to like Mr. Pete and other people like A-Bomb, being exposed to other people that are using the lathe. I was working in a vacuum before I discovered YouTube. I was just working on the lathe, like not knowing what have to, and not knowing how the power feed works. And I was a little lazy too. I mean, I was like, oh, one day I'll figure out how that works. I'll read a book. But I was like, until then, this is all I needed for. And then when I started seeing other people doing, using the back gears and the power feeds, the cross feeds and stuff like that, and I started to really understand what they were for and how to use them. And that's when I really started to get more into it. Now it's only for me, it's been like, within the last 8-9 years.
Yeah.
So
That's
It really
great
looks
discovery. And it's very rewarding to unlock the secrets of some of these machines.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I mean, it's a skill you get to teach yourself and learn and then show other people. It's just all these amazing things come out of all these new tools. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is from Dave, 3D DIY Dave. It's a little callback joke to last week's episode.
Hey guys, short time listener, first time caller. This is Alex from 3D DIY Dave. My question for Jimmy is that you make all these projects you do look really easy, but has there ever been a time where a project was just so difficult that you remember that you had to kind of just call it quits, step away, or come back another time with a new solution? What was that project? Thanks so much. Baloy signing off.
I talked about the tailgate video. If you go back and watch my very first, Dorresta tailgate is what the title is. I try and stamp metal. I CNC'd out this logo that it was my name, but I try to make it look like the old classic Chevy logo from the 60s. And I cut out the letters that mimic that same font, but that spell out my name. And I tried to stamp them in 16 gauge steel. I didn't know enough about steel at the time. And I was like, whoa, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to stamp. I had the concept right, but I had like the wrong hydraulic. I had the wrong material for the wrong, finish part. And I had this thin aluminum. I was like, let me at least see what it does on this. And boom, it worked perfect on the thin aluminum. But I didn't know enough about TIG welding to be able to TIG weld that. And I couldn't TIG weld aluminum to steel. I was going to try and put these stamped panels in so that you could see both sides of the logo from the inside and the outside. Anyway, in that video, I just pop riveted it on like in a real haphazard, shitty way. And I always consider that a failure. I published the video anyway. I get tons of hate mail because everyone's like, you think this is good? And if you read the description, I'm
Dan's
like,
familiar with that.
I know this isn't good, but you know what? This is where I am in my learning right now. Like, this is
Right.
this is my
Share
technical
the truth.
capacity
Yeah.
right here and now. And I'm sure, it'll change in time as long as I'm motivated. And, I've done that a few times. Like, I think I made for Carolina shoes. I did a welded toolbox and I did horrible aluminum welds. It's only because I just didn't have enough practice TIG welding aluminum. And I was like, you know what? I can spend 3 days grinding out all these welds. And I was like, you know what? Let me leave it honest. And I'll just show everybody my horrible welds. And everyone's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just learning. I mean, I'm in the ballpark as far as concepts go. Conceptually, I'm in the ballpark, but I don't have enough skill I'm better at it now.
You can always count on the internet to tell you how bad you are.
Oh, believe me, yeah. And anyway, so that's there are projects that are up there, and there are the projects that I just never published because I'm like, you know what, this looks like crap. And I said it on our podcast a couple months ago where like I used to be able to just like solder a clip to a key, and that got lots of views. And now you got CNC machines, you got laser cutters, you got super skilled guys like Click Spring and, Bourbon Moth. And you got these guys that are like, they know their shit really well. And they're really talented, the competition is fierce, so I try, as time goes on, I don't sometimes have the time to do a super skillfully executed project. I just try and come up with clever, either ways of doing things that are, inspiring. So like the video content itself is the skillful thing as opposed to the actual thing I'm making.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? I try and take that approach as opposed to like what ClickSpring is making, the Antikythera mechanism. Like, fuck's going to be able to make that? And he's making it the way the guy who made it, 4,000 years
originally
ago
made it. Yeah.
And the tools, and the whole time he's like, and this is how I do. This is
he's
how
wearing loincloths.
Yeah. This is how I make a file, and this is how you did the teeth on the file. I'm like, that guy's unbelievable. I actually met him once on Zoom. I walked into my buddy's house and they were on Zoom together. And so I got a chance to meet Chris in person. A sweet guy, unbelievably talented, and just obviously an incredible YouTube channel. And this old Tony, like the shit that this old Tony does. And he's so humble and sweet when he puts these videos up, and he's such a sweet guy, and he makes it all seem so approachable. Like I said, the stakes are really high. So, I fail more often only because the stakes are higher. In the back in the day, I'd be able to put up anything and be like, maybe it's not great, but whatever, it'll be good. The idea's there. I'm in the concept ballpark. I might not be in the execution ballpark. Nowadays, you got to have like gotta have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted.
No, but there's something to be said about doing it wrong while learning. Not to troll people, but actually just learning.
No.
You're gonna get a lot.
I feel
of
like you're
hate
attacking
mail.
me right now.
No, but I joke that Dan knows about that because Dan's gotten some hate mail for some stuff that he's done that.
Well, I
works.
post stuff knowing that it's bad, and I'll
Yeah.
put a caption on it and say this is the most perfect build ever.
That's the thing. At the end of the day, engagement is engagement. Whether it's bad or good, you're getting engaged, especially on a platform where a view counts. You don't have to thumbs it up or anything. Just a view counts,
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about learning from your failures. I mean, if you aren't failing, you're not learning. I can't remember who said that, but it is so true.
Yeah, no, that's true. You know, it's a lot of people. I say this all the time, and you reminded me about. I'm reminding myself about something I've been meaning to talk about. The idea that you gotta constantly challenge yourself, and if I lost it. I had something very specific to
complacency
say.
is the enemy of creativity is the one I always think about when it comes to that.
That's true. I had something a little bit more specific than that, but the fuck got away from me. But no, anyway. I just was trying to see three things at the same time, and I lost all three of them. But
Welcome to my world, Jimmy.
it's just important. The abbreviated thought is it's important to just constantly challenge yourself, and don't think you know everything. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to you can't be afraid. Like there's somebody close to me, and I don't want to out him, but there's somebody close to me that doesn't try hard enough. And I wish.
It's gross, yeah.
It's gross. I have something to tell you. No, but there's somebody near me that doesn't try hard enough, and it's simply because they're just afraid to try new things because they don't want to get complicated. They don't want to get in the complicated muck and mire of not being able to get out of it.
Yeah.
But I kind of thrive on that in a way. I'll jump right in, going, "Oh my God, I'm not sure why I'm doing this," but I'll jump in, and then when I figure it out, or I'm 90% through it, and I'm like, okay, this isn't this isn't click spring quality, but you know what I learned is more important than what I did, and
but it also increases your self-esteem.
Yeah.
They say like 50% of it is just starting.
It's amazing.
Sorry, but you just got to start the project. Like starting is the hardest part of the project, and that could be 80% of the project. You might get into it and be like, whoa, wait, I can do this. This is easy.
I used to get crippled by the fear of failure. Like I wouldn't want to start something because it scared me to think about it, because I was like, you can't do this. You're going to fail. Yep. And I wouldn't do the thing.
I just started taking on commissions again. I took a year off because they were stressing me out. And I'm at that point where I'm like, oh, well, what if they don't like it? Whatever. I was like, no, I just got to start it. And I just started. I started milling up lumber, and like, wow, I'm half done just doing this one thing.
Yeah, that's it.
By the way, Mike, we should probably
two options. You can keep. I was going to say, you got two options. You can keep building the same thing over and over again. And that sounds horrible to me. I mean, I don't know if for maybe some people are fine with building the same thing over again, but building the same thing over and over again sounds horrible. Mm-hmm. But so the only way to get out of that is to take on new things that you wouldn't normally do. That's the only way to get out of that. So you got to do it. But what were you saying, Pete? Sorry.
I was going to say, why don't we play Jack's question next? Because it's talking about failures, and that's kind of what we're talking about. And then we can go back to Ed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll go to Jack with Salish Sea real quick. He's got this for Jimmy.
What's up, guys? It's Jack from Salish Sea Woodworks up here in Seattle, Washington. And I had a question about failures, particularly on social media, whether they're content creators, builders, makers. We often see folks' successes. We see those great projects, those home runs, and we don't often see folks' failures, mistakes, and setbacks. And I think how you respond to those failures can be really important to success and your future successes. So my question is, what's a major failure you've had in building your brand or your business, and what lessons did you learn, and how did you respond to that? That's been an important impact on your success and future successes. Thanks so much, and looking forward to hearing your answers.
The first thing that comes to mind, and it's something everybody's seen, I consider it a failure only because the reason I started making my jeans was to try and get a licensing deal with somebody. And I thought, let me do them on my own for a little while. And then COVID hit and it slowed everything down. But let me do them on my own for the first couple of batches. and then see if I can land a licensing deal. That was the whole reason I went into the jeans business, is to see if I can get a licensing deal with a clothing company. Basically, like, look what I'm doing on my own. With your help, you guys could really take it somewhere. And I did not get a licensing deal. There is still conversations going on, and I'm starting to do business with Walmart, so it might come up again. I don't know. We're not in the clothing business with Walmart, but who knows where that whole relationship can lead to. But I consider that a failure in the way that it costs a lot of money, time, and energy for me to learn. I don't want to be in the clothing business, so it's not all roses, even like when I started talking about the clothing business, Alex Steele wrote me right away because he heard I was doing it, and his pants came out around the same time mine did, a couple of weeks before mine. And, we're both trying to do workwear, and Alex seems like he got his figured out a little bit more easily and more subtly than mine, because we would kind of do an all made in America, all made in New York. The price people, I even got messages like, how dare you charge $320 for a pair of jeans? I'm like, at $320 a pair of jeans, I'm still not even making any money.
Right. The margins are still low at 320.
You're not making those on volume.
No, I mean, a $320 something a pair of jeans pre-sale, so people are buying them before they're made. The unit cost was like $150 because they were hand sewn. Mm-hmm. The entire things were hand sewn. So, people just assume that like Levi's are $40, $50, $70 at the most, that so should my jeans be. But Levi's have been making jeans for 150 years.
Yep.
Well, and it's machines, and they're made in Vietnam, and it's totally different scenario.
It's the bamboo cutting board.
Same thing.
Yeah. It's the same thing with any custom project, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Handmade is going to cost you more.
Yeah. But like I said, people don't realize that. They don't realize, like, in fact, most all clothes are handmade. I mean, there is very little thing that's automated. You might have like automated like sergers and stuff like that. But in general, like the way they cut patterns for jeans and shirts and jackets, it's all handmade. The sewers are trained. Everything is handmade. Nothing is really automated that I know of. I've never seen any automated clothes. That being said, it might be.
I actually assumed it was that. I have no knowledge of clothing.
Every garment is handmade, but where it's handmade also is relative to how much it costs. Yeah. If you're in a sew house that's in Vietnam, obviously, the price of the labor is going to be low. If you're in a sew house in Midtown Manhattan, which is where we were, like all our clothes are made right in Manhattan. It's unbelievably you got to cover your rent. The most expensive place in the entire world is where we made our clothes, because we can control it. And the person, you guys might have seen Christine on my stories. Christine worked for Ralph Lauren for 25 years. And, so the whole thing from the beginning was just expensive taste. And again, I went into it. I argued with my business partner about it from the beginning. We started it. It was like I said, hey, look, let's just do this to get a licensing deal. I kind of was a little cocky, thinking that I was going to get like a Walmart deal, or like a Jesse James did, or something like that. But, I as famous as, you guys might think I am. I mean, there's lots of places where I'm not famous at all in a marketing sense,
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's important to all of us. This community and this world is super duper important to us, and you're, top into this world. But I could go talk to anyone in my family who doesn't care about making or anything, and they're not going to know who any of this stuff is or any of these names. So it's all relative. I mean, to us, you're very important, but in like
Thank you.
Selling clothes to Walmart, they don't know who you are. And it's very, it makes sense.
I'm just imagining like a giant like Jimmy cutout in Walmart, like marketing the jeans.
And to be honest, and also to clarify, somebody might be listening thinking, oh, who the hell does he think he is that he's going to? I was hoping to get a licensing deal on the merit of the mechanical of the jeans, not necessarily because I thought of them. I was trying to get we could prove that these jeans with 12 extra pockets are what everybody wants. And they look a little kind of historically cool. And that was like kind of that was the angle I wasn't going to be like, simply because my name is on the belt loop, they're going to sell. I didn't think that.
Well,
I think I was trying to go for more of the mechanical aspect of it.
But I think that will sell. I mean, people in this community will really want to support the community. We like to push our money and back into the community. So I don't think anyone who listens to this show is going to be like, God, Jimmy, crazy. He's crazy for thinking. No,
but did you hear they cost $320? There's no way.
Yeah, but I mean, they're bell-bottom Dorrestas, okay? I'm gonna wear them.
With a knife pocket in the bell bottom.
Yeah.
It's bell-bottom, so you can hide a big knife in your sock.
Yeah.
But seriously, this goes back to what we were talking about in the previous question. surely you've learned something from your quote unquote failure, though, right?
Yeah, no, I like to liken it to like dating, like when you date somebody, your significant other, when you go through life and you meet the person that might be your spouse or your person in your relationship, you meet 100 people, you don't want them to be your relationship, and it's the same thing with skills, you meet skills, you go, oh, you know what? I like this person for that reason. I might stay friends with this person. Person is somebody I'm not going to be interested in being friends with. But as you go through life, you start to realize what it is you really like. Because you're collecting all the things you don't like.
Case in point, because of you and a few other people in the community, the idea of restoring tools sounds so cool to me and so great. And I've tried multiple times to actually enjoy it, and I just don't enjoy it. I just don't enjoy restoring tools. I just don't enjoy it. I've wanted to try to enjoy it because of people who are important to me.
I personally don't enjoy doing what like Eric Hantel Rescue does. Because I just want to get the machine to the point where it works again. And then I'm like, "Ooh, I don't care."
That's all I want.
I just want
me and my son will.
It's like a vintage
Me and my
car.
son will watch his videos. Yeah, we'll watch. I love the process. I love watching it and consuming that content of it being restored. But man, doing it just sucks. I want nothing to do with that. I want a tool that works. So anyway, this next question is from Ed Cardona. This is Ed's question for Jimmy right here.
Hey guys, Ed from Oak Ridge Woodworks. Apologies if there's noise in the background as I'm still in New York City. This question is for Jimmy. Not sure if he owns a CNC or not, but I was curious on his thoughts on the growth of the use of CNCs and lasers in the maker community. I'm, as you guys know, looking to buy one myself, ready to pull the trigger. So wonder if that still makes me a maker or am I a designer? Just curious on his thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, I think CNC is just another tool. And, I always joke about those moments in the timeline of history when somebody was using a stone axe tied to a stick with a Y in it versus the guy that had his own cast iron head, cast bronze head, with maybe had an eye in it where the stick went up through the eye. And the guy with the rock came first. So he's like, what's with this iron thing? Get rid of this. This is the only way to do it.
This isn't real craftsmanship.
That's not real. This is real craftsmanship. Now use a piece of flintstone to carve your thing. Get rid of that metal.
Yeah.
I'm doing it the real way. You're doing it the newfangled way that's not real. So those are real moments in time. It's real moments in time when people look at the CNC machine and go, that's not craftsmanship. But when you see what some people can do with a CNC machine, like you guys are talking about Sean Kirsch, and he was showing me these incredible guys that are using just that machine. The origin,
the shaper origin,
to do these most incredible dovetail joints, and it's like I can't even conceive of how that machine was used to do that. I don't even understand like the correlation between what I'm looking at and how that machine was used to do it. So there is the artistry where you look at it and you can't see where it's the machine was used for it, but by somebody who saw it more complex than what the average person sees it for. You know what I mean?
It's
I know exactly.
110. They're using 110% of their brain for it. They're using it all to the full extent. Some people do just want to get those CNCs and then they just want to buy files and have that thing do stuff for them. But then you get the guys, like you said, they turn that thing into a machine that it was never even intended to use for. And it's making stuff that's cranking stuff out that you didn't even think was possible. And that's the craftsmanship.
Yeah. And I think
go ahead, Pete.
We're the worst. The 3-axis machines are just kind of becoming a standard, a norm. Someone will have one in their house of some kind, a 3D printer, a laser, a CNC, whatever it might be. Like these are becoming norms. Small scale fabrication in your shop of some kind or in your home as a hobbyist or whatever is becoming a real thing. I mean, I got a printer right here behind me. I have 3 more downstairs. I have a laser, I have a CNC. I have 6 robots in my house. And I know of hundreds of other makers that have them or have gotten them within the last year or two because they're becoming really affordable. And like you said, it's another tool and it does more cool stuff. Do you guys, you could say than like a Festool Domino, but it's way less expensive.
Do you guys, am I correct in my memory when Jay Bates got a CNC machine and he's like, I really don't know what I'm going to use it for. You guys remember those series of videos? And then, and then he gave it away.
He gave it away. Yeah. Who did he give it? He gave it to Ben, didn't he?
Bent.
And then he got an Avid, and he's got hold
that's right. He had
downs and flippity-do tabletops and flippity-do CNC joinery.
Those are technical terms.
Yeah. So the point I'm making is how Jay Bates is a traditional woodworker, and he kind of at first was like poo-pooing the CNC machine. Like I've heard the Wood Whisperer go like kind of embarrassingly, like excuses. Oh, I have a CNC machine, but I never really use it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's like unnecessary for people to feel ashamed about having a CNC machine.
You shouldn't have to justify it. You don't need to.
It's you got to make
it's just another tool.
If you're as talented as a woodworker as Spagnola, and he has to put letters in something, or he has to put an epithet into something. Am I saying that word correctly? He's gonna not be expected to hand carve New Times Roman perfectly.
Yep.
Put a V-bit on a machine, and you have a beautiful statement on something that's beautiful, that's handmade. And that's just accents it. It's nothing to be embarrassed about,
No, it's just an extension of your skill as a woodworker.
Yep.
I mean, it shouldn't be like the thing that consumes you entirely. It should be an extension of your skill set.
And, there's entry-level CNC machines. And I recently talked about this on something I did online where, the very most rudimentary CNC machine would be, a printer. A printer that you would send them, from your computer, you send something to your printer. And then there's a CNC machine that's like a plotter or a vinyl cutter. That's another CNC machine. And then you get up to the laser cutters and obviously the woodworking router CNC machines. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I totally believe it's just the way the world is going. It's another technology that's now more affordable.
Yep. Guys used to print out templates and then glue them together and then use that as a mock-up for a cutout with a jigsaw. Like you were using a 2D printer, a cutter, or like a template maker, basically.
Yeah, like let's say, for instance, like, is there anything to be embarrassed about flush routering against the template?
Right.
No.
Exactly. No.
Why is that? Why you should be embarrassed to use a CNC machine?
Exactly.
Yep. It's a very interesting perspective that people have on that are so against it. I remember I've told the story a few times. We went to Workbench Con in 2020 and I was not full-time. And I went to Katz Moses's talk about automation and how that can get a business going. And I walked away from that going, I am going to make that investment because I wanted to do this full-time so bad.
Yeah.
And I am convinced that my big machine, I was able to monetize it. That is one of the big things that got me to take doing commissions and furniture business full time was that machine. So it's amazing how you can monetize a machine like that.
Excuse me. You went right to a 4x8 CNC. I mean, you didn't mess around with a tiny,
I made the investment.
3 foot by 3 foot.
You hit the ground running too, and you did everything right. I mean, you made mistakes along the way, but it's like you went for every job you could, and you figured it out with the community. And
we talked about Derek, and Derek reached out to me about 2 years ago. And he's like, dude, he goes, I can buy a brand new machine. It's like 20 grand or whatever. He goes, right now there's a good used one. This guy got himself all jammed up in like court appearances, some guy. And so he had to sell his machine. He sold, we just, my phone's ringing. I don't know where it is. There it is.
No worries.
Derek got the CNC router parts machine. What are they called now? Avid. So
Avid,
got a used Avid machine for less than half of that. And he hit the ground running as well. He figured it all out. And he was nervous in the beginning. He's like, should I get a machine so big? Who am I to think I need a machine that big? I said, Derek, if you get that machine and you figure it out, you will be so well educated on any machine. And he had the orange one. I can't remember the name of that company.
Stepcraft.
Stepcraft. Yeah, he had a Stepcraft, and he mastered that machine, and that's why he needed something bigger. And he ended up getting this good used Avid machine, and Avid gave him some support on getting, even though it was used, Avid gave him some support on getting the thing upgraded.
Some of their extension stuff. Yeah,
that's another thing worth bringing up. A lot of people think that CNCs are just push a button and go. I mean, that's not how it works. I mean, it takes a pretty big learning curve. Once you like break into the software and kind of figure it out, then you can expand your skill set. But it's not as simple as just pushing a button and going.
Yep.
Nope.
So it does take some skill there.
But that's where the community's, why they're there. And that's why we recommend machines that are well known by the community a lot, because it's just that if you can't hit the ground running, someone else is already, they hit the ground, they went through the strides, they know what to do, they'll be able to help you out, you know. Well, it's not, should we jump on the next one?
Rely on the, yeah, we got this one. This is Jeff with Two Moose Design.
I've heard of them.
Hey guys, my question for Jimmy is, if you were to start your career all over again today, what would you do differently?
That's a really good question. And I made a joke when I very first heard it that I would do better at math. You know, maybe I probably wouldn't dilly dally with with the small shit, if I could put it that way. I don't know if we can curse on this podcast, but you know,
that's what explicit warnings are for.
Dealing with like riffraff, and you know, like I spent so much time on like little entry level machines and entry level this and entry level that, only because 100%. I was afraid. And we just talked about this with the CNC machine, only because I was a little afraid to spend money on a better piece of equipment early on, if that makes sense.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I always wanted a good lathe.
I feel personally attacked right now, but yes, I agree.
I always wanted a good lathe, but I always like dilly-dallied with, you know, for sentimental reasons with this lathe I grew up with. And then when I actually used a really good wood lathe, I was like, whoa, wow, man, this is like...
But they're not mutually exclusive, you know? I mean, you can keep that lathe that means a lot to you and have that money-making lathe for sure. And
yeah, but what I'm saying is like, I would, you know, it's all hindsight, it's 2020, but, you know, being able to like, I don't know. When you don't have money, you don't have money. There's no easy way to spread it around. But you know, like when I was first starting out, and you know, like I don't know. I don't have a real good answer. I guess the answer would be, you know, just buy better equipment early. Basically, is what I'm saying when it comes to what I'm doing.
Invest in your future.
Yeah, invest in better equipment earlier on, because you know you could just you can get to making more quality things earlier, and you know, your output can be, you know, you live within your means. So people all see, like when I was in my little city shop, and then I came up to the country full time to the house where I've always owned this house, but I never had a shop that I rented. I rented a shop nearby when I first came up here. And, you know, when I realized country living was going to be where I'm 100%, now I need a shop. So I shopped around in my little neighborhood, and I found a 5,000 square foot space that I paid less for than the 1,000 square foot space I had in the city, with a giant parking lot in front. And my landlord could care less what I put in the parking lot. I could literally have a fleet of Chevy trucks in there, and he wouldn't care.
I'm listening.
That's the dream.
So, you know, like not only did I have interior space that I can protect my, you know, my belongings, but I have an exterior space where I call it my junkyard. Where I could have, I could stage my cars that I can work on, and, you know, whatever. I can get a scrap machine for parts and leave it outside, not have to bring it down in the city basement. So, you know, therein lies, I was kind of sticking it out in the city thinking I was keeping it real, when all I was doing was limiting my capability by staying in a little basement. You know, there is a bigger, broader example of what I was talking about.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
and you know,
you got to be able to invest in yourself.
We beat up Chris Zepp all the time because he spends 20% of his energy keeping his tools from flooding. We're like, Chris, just take 2 months, step back, 3 months, step back, get a new place. Get rid of that dream, you know, this pipe dream he has of like making this. It is a very beautiful vintage building he lives in, he works in. He's got a good, decent rent, but how much is it worth you? You know, his production and his output would be so much more if he had a space that he could drive a forklift around in. He loves collecting antique heavy stuff. Get a forklift. Get a place with a cement floor. Get a place that doesn't flood. Get a place that doesn't have a down driveway cut out of gravel. Get a place that you could drive your forklift inside of and outside of. You know, like when I got that capability, my life became like I can breathe again. Like this whole time I felt like I was like, had like weights holding me down under the water, for instance. No, you know, pun intended.
But in his defense,
that's what I'm working towards. Oh God, done that.
In his defense, though, it's really hard to break away from something like that when you feel. I feel like I'd be emotionally attached to that place, as I'm sure he is as well. I don't want to speak for him, but it's really hard to break away from that. And then it's easier to see that once you do break away from it, and you can 100%. Look back at it. And
that's what I'm saying. I was right there. I was exactly. I'm like, you know what? I'm keeping it real. I'm in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. There's no other makers besides Casey Neistat that are in Manhattan. And, you know, I love my little community, and there's like beautiful girls all around. You could like people watch, and there's all these super weirdos that I'm friends with that I really enjoy. And then when I stayed into the country, I didn't have to talk to anybody. I didn't have to wait for a parking spot. I didn't have to get flooded poop in my shop. I didn't have to deal with rats. I didn't have to deal with cockroaches in my backpack. I was like, what was I doing? Now I'm in the country. All I got to do is worry about getting a tick every once in a while.
See, Dan's a little bitter because Mike and I both just moved out into the country. Both have acres of land. Both have.
It's funny, shops. You guys live in the the busy part of the country, and I live in the middle of nowhere. But I'm in the city.
He's in the suburbs or city just outside Omaha. But yeah, I totally agree. It's nice to have that space.
Yes, I am bitter. Put it mildly.
But you're like
that's why we keep you on.
You're in Nebraska. Like what highways through there? 90 or something? Just get on 90.
I-80.
Actually, we're all off of 80.
Drive on 80 for 20 minutes, get off, and you'll probably be in a tremendous cornfield.
I would. That's a long story, Jimmy. I don't think we have enough time or therapists.
Kayla.
I love my wife.
Right,
we'll leave it at that.
It's a great school district.
All right.
Let's just say that.
A great school district.
I'm going to be using that line all the time. This next question's from Lee Oman from Regal Street. Here we go. Lee's question.
Hey guys, it's Lee over at Regal Street. I had a quick question for Jimmy. In my shop, I have an old Craftsman bandsaw. Nothing special. That was handed down to me from my parents. They've had it as long as I can remember. It's nothing special, like I said, but I don't think I'll ever get rid of it, even when I do end up getting something better. Because it means something to me, So, Jimmy, do you have any tools that you've either bought, made, or inherited that mean something to you? And what is that tool? All right, guys, have a great show. Thanks.
Yeah, my bandsaw that I cut out, for instance, I just used it on the Carolina tailgate video. That bandsaw is the first bandsaw I ever had in my life. It's when my dad was a New York City fireman. There was older retired fireman who passed away, and his wife sold all of his stuff. And my dad bought all the machines. My dad bought the lathe, I think he bought the radial arm saw from that gentleman, that bandsaw, and a few other hand tools that we still have. And that bandsaw was the bandsaw that I first learned to use when I was 7 or 8 years old. So that's the one. Awesome. That's the one I used in the video last week.
That's
nice.
Awesome.
Is it just me, or is it always bandsaws? I feel like bandsaws have such a sentimental thing, because mine's first that I had a really hard time getting rid of was a bandsaw. It was one of my first vintage tools that I bought, and I ended up not selling it, but gifting it to my friend who they're restoring a place in Alabama. I'm like, you guys are broke. I would love to give this to you. Like, use it for your property. Use to resaw stuff, and it was hard to get rid of it. It's always a bandsaw.
This is a little deep what I'm about to say, but the bandsaw for me represents rigid woodworking and freeform at the same time, because I was always cutting free shape letters on the bandsaw. And so when people say the bandsaw, like a fine woodworker like Mark or Matt Cremona or those guys, they might not use a bandsaw as often as I would, but they have it, and they probably have a big deep blade on it because they're doing like long sweeping curves for like this type of stuff like Matt does, or resawing, right? Obviously, for me, I have a really thin blade on it, so I could make really tight curves, and I'm cutting letters out most of the time on it. So if you could understand where I'm coming from when I say the bandsaw, for me it represents like artistic freedom in that way, but also represents woodworking, the way that more traditional woodworker would use. So for me, it has like a foot in both universes for me. So that's why I always liked it as like, it's like the anvil of the blacksmith shop, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Case in point, how you cut out those swords at Maker Camp. You just whipped them out.
Exactly.
It was kind of
it was totally freeform.
Comical when I first approached it. I'm like, it's this massive bandsaw with a 1/4-inch blade on it. But I saw what you were doing on it. It makes sense. Also, that table. Oh my God, it was bigger than my table saw table.
Yeah, the table's like 30 inches square.
Oh, it's good.
It's a big boy.
I've told this story before, but before I got into woodworking, my family's in construction. So, I know table saws and circ saws and all these traditional or, more common woodworking tools that you see. But I remember when I first started watching videos like yours, Jimmy, and Pachuto and Claggett and all these guys, I started watching videos like that. And I started like getting into like, oh, woodworking sounds great. The idea of resawing a board, you know, that actually blew my mind. And I still have that in my head still to this day. Cause like when they took a board and made it, they're like, oh, we don't need it to be this thickness. And oh, we don't want to run it through the planer because we're wasting all this wood. We could just cut it to the size we need. And now we have this other piece that we use. And it blew my mind. And my emotional tool is my bandsaw as well, because it was the first tool I bought with money that I had saved up from selling things I made with my other woodworking tools. Was my bandsaw that I have now. And it's not like, it doesn't have this really cool story like my dad got it or it was passed down from my uncle or anything like that. I bought it brand new, but I'll never get rid of that bandsaw.
Right. No, it represents a tremendous
bandsaw was the
learning curve in your life. A hurdle.
Yeah. And like, it was the first like woodworking tool for my experience with it. So for me, I was like, man, you could do all this stuff. You could resaw, you can do all these curve cuts. It's just such a cool tool. It's the bandsaw. Don't go cheap on, get a cool bandsaw. That's all I have to say.
The one tool that I have a lot of sentimental value to is a tool that I got from my grandfather that he picked up in World War II in Germany. And he gave it to me. It's my Festool Domino. It really has a place in my heart.
Yeah,
I will never get
find
rid
that
of
on the
it.
battlefield.
Yeah, right on the battlefield. He took it out of a that story is a little much for this podcast.
All the knobs are brass instead of plastic. Yeah.
Oh God, screeching Walt! You can hear the brakes. No, let's go to the next question. It's from Josh the Dad. Here we go. Josh's question.
Hello, gentlemen. It's Josh the Dad. Yep, Josh the Dad, one of the big IG, coming at you with a question. Finally, after so many weeks off, I've decided that while I don't have a lot of time to be on the IG, I can at least creep on the IG, and I can think about the perfect question. And then you declared Mr. Dorresta was going to be on the show, and I thought, I have a question for the common good of the community, I hope. So here it is. Mr. Dorresta, when you go out and find old equipment and you're acquiring those pieces, do you have a good go-to location for information about that piece of equipment? Whether it be an old drill press or saw or anything, is there a good place to go for manuals, parts lists, all that kind of stuff, just to help you get it back up and running? All right. Have a great week, guys.
Yeah, I would say, you have Keith Rucker's resources that he puts up, and that it's kind of an open source thing where people can add to it. You have old woodworking machines, and you have vintagemachinery.com. Those are the two that I would go to right away. And, obviously one of the biggest resources is I reach out to Instagram. Every once in a while, you see me just like say, hey, Instagram, I need some information on this. And
what is this?
Yeah, what is this? What is this used for? And it's like some castration device that's used on the farm because like, hey, knucklehead, that's for doing this, that, or the other thing. And you're like, oh, okay. So it's the community is the best way to find out what you don't know.
Right.
Sure.
The community is basically a big open source forum. Like,
yeah,
it's great.
So great. That's honestly the best benefit of like growing an audience. It's just like, it's just a search engine. It's so great. You'll do a story and you'll get 10 different ways to do it differently or an explanation.
Yeah. IG is my Ask Jeeves.
Yes, it is my Ask Jeeves as well.
Absolutely.
It's my Bing.
Oh God. Okay, so this next one is from Barbara.
Oh,
Barbara,
geez.
Here we go. Yeah.
Hi, Jimmy. This is Barbara from my Wood is Hard workshop. And hey, I got a hot question for you tonight. Who is the most talented Dorresta in your family? Me personally, I really think it's your mother. But who do you think has the most talent? It's been great learning from you, buddy. Have a great one. Okay, bye.
Well, it's funny, we all I'm one of 4 siblings, and my brothers, I have 2 brothers, and one is an extremely funny comedian. He's extremely talented. He's had varying degrees of success in show business, and I'm here because of what he has, because of the hurdles he's broken down. That's why I'm here, because of the hardships he went through getting into the show business. And my brother Joseph is a business guy in the way that like you could rattle off numbers and he's adding them up as you speak. And then by the time you're done, you say, well, and he'll just say the number, like, or, you could talk about like economics and stuff. And he completely understands economics. And, he's always like 2 steps ahead of you with the math equations. And that's something I just think on my keyboard.
I feel like me and Joseph could be friends.
Yeah. And then my sister is a jewelry designer, and she's always been learning about precious metals, soldering and fusing precious metals. She works with platinum and gold, 14 and 19 karat, 14 karat gold. I forget exactly, but she knows everything about the casting process. She's done the casting process, but she farms it all out. But she does wedding rings. She sets precious stones and diamonds. She does all that stuff. So she specializes, Joey specializes, and John specializes. And I've always been a generalist when it comes to like all the various things I do. So, we're all talented in our own ways. And, it's an amazing family to grow up in, where we're all so diverse, and we don't butt heads creatively ever. If anything, I've been texting with them all night long, my siblings, we're always going back and forth.
So that's awesome.
My mom
cool.
is the
good
most
to have that
talented.
relationship.
My dad.
So Barbara was right.
Yeah. No, my mom has been an amazing sort. My mom's 82 years old. She's sharp as a tack. My dad, he's slowing down a little bit, but my dad has provided all of us with a great sense of curiosity. And my dad loves to see the CNC technology that's taken place. He's like, wow, like the world has come along so far since he was a young carpenter making stuff.
You mean your dad doesn't look at the CNC and say, that's not real craftsmanship?
No, believe it or not, my dad, he seems like a hard-headed Archie Bunker kind of guy, and he is in some ways. But when it comes to creativity, he loves seeing new technology take over. He loves it.
That's good.
Yeah,
that is good.
That's great.
Well, that's it for
all the questions.
Call-ins. Do we want to do the read ones, or do we want to get to ours? Do you guys want to get to?
Well, Mike, you be the judge. Are the read ones good?
We'll do a couple.
I haven't read them, to be honest. Let's
mix it up?
I've got one for you. Jimmy. I've got one for you. And I think I know the answer, but do you have like an end game for you? I mean, is there an end game here? Like, is there like, okay, I do this and then I'm done?
Well, you know what? It's funny because when I was in art school, my end game was to be able to sell art that I wanted to make and not artwork.
What you're doing,
which is what I'm doing. That's always been the end game, is to basically be like, I was envious. So in art school, you can go for commercial art, which means you're either making advertisements or you're doing graphic design, all in service of either a product or in service of a client that wants their logo, or, magazine that needs a spread. You're always in service of somebody else. Whereas the fine artists are basically just emotional expression, is saying, this is the way I'm feeling right now. It's going to manifest in this object. You buy this object, and one day that object is going to be worth a lot of money because I'm famous. Because I'm a weirdo, introvert, extrovert, weirdo performance artist, and that's what makes that. And, I always had the commercial artist mind, but I always envied the people that would be able to just basically make physical expressions of their emotions. And, thankfully through YouTube and, the audience I developed, I'm able to do that. And, like I said, I'm basically doing fine art expressions of my emotions through commercial art objects, like the push sticks that are fingers, or a big giant razor blade that just is like a big fun sculptural piece of object that really is a razor blade, or this silly poster of this stupid thing I said on a podcast 8 years ago.
If it looks straight, it is straight.
Yeah. So, and like let me get my yayas out by fixing this mechanical device that's been sitting on the street for 100 years and getting it working and creating art on it, making content, inspiring others to go get their printing presses and make the art that they want to make on it. So in a way, I've done better than I thought. I've been able to.
That's awesome.
I've done a lot better than I thought. And if I could ride this out, I'd be happy. Just continuously doing more and more of this.
Like, I don't know you except for what I see on content that I can consume of yours. I feel like you're never gonna be done though, right? Is that an accurate description? I mean, you just kind of always want to do this, right? Like,
yeah, I hate traveling. I hate traveling for like the idea of vacationing. I would never. I hate the beach. I hate going to the Bahamas. I hate going where it's too warm. I hate going to a place to just be there and be like, okay, we're here.
Let's
look. And,
you want to do stuff. You have to be doing stuff, right?
I have to be doing stuff. Yeah. When me and Taylor just traveled for 2 weeks in the first 2 weeks of September, we were exploring, and I really had to, like, in my mind, say, this is about taking in images. This is about taking in images, ideas, and places that will inspire my future ideas. And for that, because of that, I was able to do that trip and look around. It's not like this is just to connect with Taylor, and we're going to argue and we're going to get bored by sitting in the car for so long. But together we, found the beauty in the mountains, and the beauty in the hiking, and the beauty in, just discovering new products. We'd pop in a store, we'd shop, but we wouldn't really need to buy anything. But we'd like, whoa, look at the design of this. Look at the design of this. Oh, wow, look at this cool new handbag that we can both go home and make. Stuff like that sense of discovery and being surprised with new images that you otherwise wouldn't see if you stayed in your circle of activity, so.
Yeah. Complacence. If I'm gone from home for like more than 5 days, I'm like, get me back home immediately. But yeah, I have to, like, as I've getting older, I'm like, I need to make myself go, okay, you know what? You don't get to do this. Just I have to, like, make myself enjoy it. And then, if I can be level-headed with myself, I can make myself enjoy it. But man, I just want to be in my shop as much as I can at all times. So
that's it. I mean, the only place I yearn to go, like if I yearn to go anywhere in this world, it would be Egypt. I've been to Rome, the back sort of creativity. I would love to go to Egypt, and because Egyptology has really inspired a lot of my thinking, and as it manifested in like literal Egyptologist art, but just the thinking of the ancient, the ancient Egyptians.
4,000 to 6,000 years ago, they were making what they were making. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
They all had stone, so they made everything out of stone.
They had alien help too, but we won't get into that.
That's a different episode.
So do I.
Well, I have a question to kind of play off of Mike's, and you don't have to go into obviously too far of a detail here, but like you're kind of living the dream. Like, but what is your business? People could say like, well, Jimmy, he doesn't work a 9 to 5. Like, how do you make money just being an artist, like doing what you're doing? Like, well, and obviously you don't have to talk about the numbers, but just kind of like, what are your revenue streams and stuff?
I basically tell people I'm like a 1-person advertising agency, and it is just me. I mean, now obviously now it is only just me since Aaron's passed. I do have help now from Rob Rojas is kind of slowly helping me out. He just graduated college, so he has more time now. My buddy Mike the fireman helps me out a little bit, around the shop. But going forward, like the way I make money is through my website, selling products through my website. We have a pending deal with Walmart, so that might be very lucrative potentially.
I hope so.
I just connected with a giant factory in China that manufactures tools all around the world, and they might want me to help
contour gauges by chance.
No, actually it's a company that manufactures all cobalt and like all the stuff like in all the big box stores. They're a behind the scenes manufacturer, so I might help them design a line of products. So there's always those type, like right now that's just a conversation, but there's always those types of conversations going on in the background, and I'm very lucky to be able to kind of make all these different connections. And a lot of it comes back to my YouTube channel. Like somebody saw me do this and they contacted me and said, hey, if you can do that, can you help me design this? And I'm always looking for the bigger game now, especially since I'm older. I'm never looking for like the one-time thing where I could make $10,000. It's like when a tool company comes to me and is like, hey, would you want to make a video about this? I'm like, I would not rather make a video, but more rather make a relationship. Let's make a 1-year relationship. Let's make a 2-year relationship. And if they're not up for it, then I just say, you know what? I mean, I'd rather save that space for somebody that wants to make that 2-year relationship. I don't want to do just one video for your gadget, and then people think that, your color tool is now my color tool. It's not necessarily what I want it to be.
Sorry, Jimmy. I once heard on your podcast, you mentioned, I can't remember when it was, but I think it's been some time ago, that you mentioned you call yourself an artist simply because of the write-off capabilities. Like as an artist, you can write almost anything off.
As early on, I was an inventor, and still like since like 91, my tax return says artist inventor as my occupation. And as an artist and inventor, everything is research and development pretty much. I mean, and it's not a lie, like
no,
I could buy I could buy a lever action rifle because I'm studying the mechanics of it. So I could write off a $700, old Henry rifle.
Wow.
That stuck with me, that whole that's line of thinking. That's brilliant.
So is there like a Dorresta LLC or Dorresta Incorporated?
Oh yeah, no, Dorresta Unlimited has been in business. Well, Joseph, my brother, and I had a Dorresta Unlimited since like 93, 94, Dorresta Unlimited. But
October 28th of 94.
Yeah.
Does that really say that?
No, it's today. Another anniversary.
You're looking online. No, so we had that. So Diresta Unlimited was our toy development company. And then we dissolved that, and Joey started his own little LLC, and I started mine in 2008. So Diresta Unlimited Incorporated is like an entertainment product development. It's just my little corporation. And when people say, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a fabricator." That's just the overall general.
Very cool.
But it's funny. Like I work with a creative accountant that handles people in the entertainment business, people in the sports business, he handles strippers, and he handles people with like oddball income. So he knows how to deal with that stuff. And I've been his client. He's been mine since, I don't know, 91 or 90, somewhere around there.
That's cool. And the reason I asked that is because people ask us all the time of like, how do you handle your business? What are your incomes? Like, how do you, like, the accountant answer was great. I wasn't even expecting that. He's like, find yourself an oddball accountant. That's actually pretty good, because they'll know how to
take advantage of your incomes. I still take jobs. I have like all my liquor clients, everybody kind of knows it as Bullet Bourbon, but my Bullet Bourbon guys are a marketing firm that gets hired by Bullet Bourbon. So they're called Proof Media Mix because they handle mostly liquor businesses. So it's called Proof Media, which is kind of a pun on the name, what kind of proof. So Proof Media Mix is the company that hires me for Bullet Bourbon, George Dickel whiskey. Right now we're working for this wine company that's paying me to do this enclosed trailer that they're going to serve wine out of. And a lot of the signage that I've done over the years has all been for Proof Media Mix.
That's awesome.
They get a budget like an advertising agency, and then they pay me. And I'm not their only artist. I'm just one of their artists, but they can rely on me to come up with creative solutions a lot of the time. And, Chuck and Bobby always throw me the stuff that they know I'm going to handle quickly. And, they know I like doing the rustic stuff, which is great because all this whiskey stuff is, Kentucky whiskey stylized, barns, old wood, rusty metal, that's kind of right. My wheelhouse. It's really on brand for all those companies. And
such a great relationship to have, for sure.
Yeah. And they've become some of my closest friends, it's great. And it's funny. I'll even I take jobs from Chuck all the time. I just start working on it. Like I'll be like halfway through it. I'm like, how much are you getting paid for this? Because I'll just start giving you money. It just gives me like, he just like, zells me 5,000 every couple days until he's like, is that enough? I'm like, I don't know. Is that enough? Are you okay with that? He's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, I'm okay with that.
That's a great relationship.
I made all those trailers for those guys last year. I don't even know if they paid me the right amount or I lost track, but I made money. You remember those Bullet Bourbon trailers I made?
Yes. Yep.
Made
for
53 of them, which is unbelievable.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
Wow. Jeez. And so kind of a follow-up question, like what is your origin story? Because we've heard you kind of like over the years how you grew and everything, but like did you get bit by like a radioactive bandsaw? Like what
I wish.
Like what made you go, I'm gonna make stuff, I'm gonna start cutting things and welding them or whatever?
I just the short version of it is when I was a student at School of Visual Arts, I was a heavy drinker. I was an alcoholic drinker. So my first year at the School of Visual Arts, I was drinking too much. I kind of was like a rudderless ship. I just like, all I knew I wanted to do was get drunk all the time. On the week, I was like more of like a recreational alcoholic. I wasn't drinking throughout the day. I didn't need to go hit a bottle of whiskey in the middle of the afternoon, but every weekend I got so drunk, I'd black out with my friends, and it was just like, I couldn't wait till the weekend to party and get super smashed. And then as I started focusing more on like, what is my life going to be about? I decided to stop drinking, primarily because my older brother had a serious car wreck drunk driving. He didn't die. He didn't kill anybody. And so we all took it as a wake-up call. So he stopped drinking in 1986 at the night of his accident. And I stopped drinking just a few months later. And I didn't take me an accident. I used his accident as my stopping point. And then I just kind of submerged myself in, like, instead of the addiction of drinking beer and whiskey, I submerged myself in the addiction of just working all the time. Because Joey, my brother, and I were both now sober with like copious amounts of free time because we weren't like focused on partying all weekend. Like we would literally like drink like 10 cases of beer, like from Friday to, like with a group of people, not each individually, but
Right.
like, and we'd be like, look at how many empty beer bottles we had. Isn't this cool? Like that's completely worthless energy spent and money spent. And so now on a weekend, we'd be hanging out in the workshop being like, okay, what can we do? There was this art character called Fido Dido that was printed on t-shirts. So my brother's like, what can our Fido Dido be? What can our thing be? And we started developing concepts. And then I got into the School of Visual Arts. I mean, I was in the School of Visual Arts at the time. And then I got into a toy design class. And the toy design class I pulled my brother into, and we realized toy design is like a fashion. So my teacher at the time, his name was Mark, took me right out of SVA, School of Visual Arts, in 1990, and started introducing me all around the toy business. And so my brother, I pulled Joey into that business, and we started designing and developing toys. And, that was my foundation for like a fashion business where it's like constantly inventing things, constantly coming up with new ideas, constantly looking for, that push stick with the missing finger and, not taking myself too serious. And, because I cut my pinky off, my push stick is missing a pinky. They sewed mine back on, but the joke on the push stick and, the silly posters and the stupid things that we always jokingly say. And, with a sense of graphic design and, a nod to like, the 1920s, 30s Art Deco look that I always like, the Industrial Revolution look as spoke wheels and, all this stuff just started coming together. I mean, I'm going really quickly through the timeline, but, the idea of being in the toy business and learning all the disciplines of how things get made, how you can do short runs, how you can do long runs, and how you could sell your ideas, and like that was my foundation. And, I think I'm lucky in that regard because now I'm in YouTube and, I'm no Colin Furze. Believe me, Colin Furze is like my idol. Someone like Colin, who's constantly
that guy's brilliant.
He's constantly topping himself. But, in my own little, Dorresta stratosphere, biosphere rather, I'm happy, I'm happy with that I get to own a tractor. I get to own a backhoe, like all these things that I've always wanted as a little kid, now I have them. And, and, they're fun toys. I'm on a big piece of property that I didn't pay a lot of money for. I have friends in Manhattan that are buying like an apartment as big as the room that I'm in right now for $900,000, and they have a maintenance fee that's, $1,500 a month because they have a doorman. I'm mortgaged onto $250,000 for 40 acres. And, my bedroom, my house has 11 bedrooms in it. My big barn, I think because I don't have any children, I don't have the expense of all my siblings have children.
Children,
my children are, my two barns in the backyard and my machine shop, those are my children.
Before I forget, I want to go back to, you said you were a toy designer there for a while.
Yeah.
Am I correct in saying that, and I think I heard this on your podcast, you designed or helped design several toys that were very popular in the 90s. And
yeah, one of them was a thing called Sky Dancer. It was a doll that would fly out of like a little handset. And it was my friends, John and Anthony, it was these two brothers that came up with that idea. They're really behind the scenes creatives. And they came up with this idea of like, this thing that you'd spin in your hands and it flies up, like a stick. It's a toy from like, the turn of the century. And they figured out like if that was the arms of like a little fairy dust, they saw that and had this sort of like LSD acid trip moment being like, that's not a stick and a set of wings. That is a princess. And those are her arms that look like butterfly wings, And so they turned that, as a way to look at that something. And then it was like, okay, how can we make that? But how can we make it so the arms fold down? And that's where I came in, helping them to kind of develop this handset and stuff. And then there was a couple of years there where the thing was actually selling, but people were like pulling on the string to set the doll into flight, and they'd pull it to their face. And so I came up with this clutch device that, basically they had to hold it level to earth, because if they pulled it this way, the little ball would lock it out. There'd be like a little wavy ball that would lock it out. So I helped develop the lockout mechanism for Generation 2. So I helped them on that. And, our own personal so-called successful toy was this thing called Gurgling Guts, which is like a squishy
That's
eyeball.
the one. Yeah.
That was an idea that I came up with. Thankfully, I invented that, and we sold that. We were able to market that. And, that made us a lot of money. But we split it 4 or 5 ways because there was a couple of partners on it. So, I made millions of dollars, but I split it 18 ways, and it took like 3 years to make, that small piece of it. So it was just a living at the time. I wasn't able to get, earn FU money.
That's still fascinating.
You earned fund the next thing money.
Yeah, exactly. And in my life, I've gone, completely broke. I mean, just before YouTube, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I've had moments like that. When I bought my house, I was certainly completely broke. I was like, every month was just to pay the mortgage, but I had a house. That's like my mother called it your house poor. She said when she and my father were getting a presentation of somebody who's house poor. Yeah.
Notice there's no curtains. We've been here for 12 years.
And so you get more light.
To brighten your day. Yeah, so I was house poor for a while. Like I said, I had a piece of the American dream, but I could barely pay my mortgage and my rent. And then here I am. I'm a glutton. I have a house and a rent. Like, why don't you just have one or the other? But anyway, I always say you want expensive things because it forces you to work harder. Me and my business partner, Howard, who's, he's not a creative in the way that we are, he's very creative when it comes to business. He always says there's ways of making more money is figuring out how to earn more money or investing the money you have. And those are the two ways. And I'm a strong believer in just earning more money because I'm an idiot because I don't know how to invest money.
Right.
Dogecoin.
Cool.
What other questions we got?
Yeah.
Well, we got this.
I think we should. We're going to run long. Why don't we guys want to see what more?
We have one written in question, and I kind of wanted to use it as my question and not give any credit to John Johnson whatsoever.
Do it.
He wrote in, and I'm asking, what project have you wanted to do for a long time, but still haven't had the time to do it?
Mm-hmm. Either build like a hot rod or a motorcycle. It's something like the way Jesse James would, or any of these guys like Indian Larry,
Orange County Choppers.
Yeah, or those guys. The way they build a motorcycle from scratch. I've always wanted to do that. These guys do it. Once a week or once a month.
Right.
It's obviously a big undertaking for me because I just don't have the experience of like kind of jumping through something like that. So that's something I've always wanted to do. And, that for me, that could potentially be a retirement project because when I built my canoe,
that's what I was thinking, actually.
2018, that's one of those long-term projects. You really gotta be fastidious and make sure you add to it every day, or, you have some progress every day. Because Taylor and I took apart this Honda to fix up and, it just sits there and no one's got the time to work on it anymore. But this old
awesome.
CB400 that we got.
Now,
it's
with
all
this hot
there
rod,
in buckets.
Would it be like a truck or
possibly
a
truck,
a lifted truck? What are we talking about here?
I like things that aren't too, I say a hot rod, like a tea bucket or something like that, but probably more like a rat rod, because I like rust. So like, I like things that are in states of decay, that are in arrested states of decay. That's what I always like, so like, I like the idea. Awesome. Even it's funny, me and Paul Pinto were texting today. He's like, dude, you got to get yourself a 3100 because he knows I love Chevys and he's working on a 53 Ford now. And he's like, you got to get like your 3100 would be like a, an early 50s Chevy, the bubbly nose like Annabelle Trades has, that kind of style.
Drop a 572 in that sucker. It'll be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen their new block engine they just announced?
They did,
big
yeah.
old 674, whatever that is.
Yeah, I said to Mike the fireman, he sent me that. He goes, dude, look at this. I go, let's get a car to put it in. He goes, dude, that engine's like 10 grand. He's like, slow your roll. I'm like, is it really? He's like, that's what he said. I didn't.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that's a whole nother genre of.
No, it's a big question.
But like that, like I would love to like get a brand new crate engine and stick it in some sleeper or something.
Oh yeah, it'd be super fun.
Yeah.
Put it in a Volkswagen Bug.
Sweet. Put it in a Cadillac hearse.
Put it in a Tesla body.
Well, speaking of Cadillac hearse, don't you have like a Ghostbusters like type of hearse?
I have
Is that a Cadillac?
57 hearse. Yeah, I bought it in August. A 1957 Cadillac hearse. Yeah, with very low miles, and it's.
Please tell me you're gonna make it look like the Ghostbusters car.
No, I bought it under the condition that I wasn't allowed to do that. If you paint this car and screw it up, I'm gonna kill you. It's like, I won't do that.
All right, fine. I thought that was like you had to do that illegally. I thought everybody has to do that if they buy one of those.
It does have a siren on top because it's called the combo, which means it's either an ambulance or a hearse. It's kind of like it's like a city morgue truck, if you could imagine.
Right. That's so really dark.
It's awesome.
Comes with a big spatula.
No, it's just a big slide out in the back, just like but it's for, you can put a toolbox on there.
Yeah.
Oh, like the slide out. You have
Yeah,
those
for
slide
the
outs
trucks.
in the back of your truck.
Yeah.
that'd be-
Same thing.
The slide out though would be a coffin. Yeah.
Right. It'd be
Coffin or
big
toolbox,
slab.
whatever.
That's funny.
Why not both?
Yeah.
In fact, you know what a good coffin would be for someone like me would be one of those toolboxes you stick across the bed of your truck. I was like, I'm gonna tell Taylor when it's time to put me in the ground, just go to Home Depot and buy one of those toolbox bed trucks.
Get one of those. What are they called? Krakens or whatever. What are they called? What's the brand name? Is it Kraken?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Why did I think of that name? I don't know.
Is that a Menards brand?
I might be on Kraken. I don't know.
Kraken reminds me of Trump's lawyer, the one that was going around saying the Kraken's going to be released. I don't know what the fuck she was talking about.
Release the Kraken.
Still don't know what she's talking about.
Nobody
And
does.
then they showed an image of like an octopus on a big giant like ship. I'm like, is the Kraken some Bible thing? I got no idea what this is about.
Oh, geez. All right, listen, Jimmy, huge honor to have you on here, man.
This
Like
is so
seriously, like
fun.
really blows our mind. You're like an incredible inspiration, man. Like
Oh,
it's
thank you, guys.
it's surreal that you're on here, and man, you
Thanks,
you
Mike.
really are amazing. And I know I speak for both of these guys, but when I say like you're a big part of not just me getting into the maker community and creating and that stuff, but also being a part of the content side of it. The more important thing is obviously the creation side of it, but getting into wanting to be a part of the woodworking community and the maker community. It's you're definitely really high up on that list as to why that happened for me. And I know it's the same for these guys. So
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
we
you. Thank you. guys.
really, I mean, no, thank you. Like seriously, thank you. So we really appreciate you coming on the show a lot. It's really great. It was really great to talk to you. Just couldn't stop listening to what you're saying. And we just really appreciate it so much. So
Thank you, Bo.
Yeah, this has been
Thank
great.
Thank all three of you.
No,
Thank you, guys.
I feel like
Yeah,
we're close
thank-
now. Is there any chance I can get a lock of your hair for
Yes.
for science reasons?
Like I said, just hang out with me long enough. You can just pick it up off the floor.
All right,
You
I'll be
want
over
beard,
tomorrow.
head? You want back hair? What do you?
Back hair would be great.
There's not much back hair, but there's not
please.
enough. There's not enough hair in the back of my head. I'll tell you that.
Well, now that we're all
Awesome. Well,
comfortable,
Yeah.
thank you, Dunlap.
Let's go to the post show.
that's what you guys got me here for, right?
Do you
Yeah.
guys do a post show?
Well, it's just
No.
us riffraffing.
No,
No way.
Well, if
No
we
way,
have a
I'm
good enough
sleepy. I
show,
gotta
maybe we'll
edit.
throw it at the patrons or something. But
You
Oh, yeah,
guys
we're
could
gonna-
ask me a
I gotta
secret
edit this
question in
thing.
the after show.
yeah, we'll do an after
He's like,
secret.
well, let's
after
say
show.
goodbye to the
edit
listeners
this
then.
I gotta edit this thing. It's going long.
Well,
No,
Mike,
but,
you
no,
wanna do the
seriously, big thank you to you.
Huge
Yeah,
thanks.
big thank you to the listeners, guys. This is a big show, so be sure to share this if you can in your social media. Do it in your stories. Don't make a post about it; that'd be crazy. But share the show. Put the word out there for us. We really appreciate you doing that. We really appreciate you guys keeping us alive in your feed and all the support you give us. You guys are amazing. You guys are the best listeners. We really appreciate it very much. So we'll be back next week for another show. We'll have no guests, but the week after that, we have Graz joining us, which is going to be awesome. So looking forward to that as well. So that's kind of it for the show. Thank you, Jimmy. You're the man. Really,
That's
truly,
it.
you're the man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jamie.
Am I
Thank you,
hanging on?
listeners.
I'm not hanging
All
on.
No, don't hang up.
All right.
We're not done with you yet.
We're gonna hit the stop button on Audible right now. And,
Audible?
or on Audacity, not Audible. Hopefully you're not listening
This
to
podcast brought to you by
Yeah.
Audible.
So, anyways, we love you all. Bye.
Yeah,